Well, guys, sometimes it's just fun to talk about college football. And I just saw this article and I thought to myself, I'll do a video on it. It says, ranking college football's 10 hardest schedules for the 2023 season. Going from number 10 to number 1, we will be going through the hardest schedules. Everyone now officially does have their schedule out. I know when I was doing all the scheduling videos, a lot of the teams, they didn't have them fully out. Now everyone's schedule is out, and I'm just going to be, going through each of these top 10 schedules to see who has the hardest schedule and kind of giving my input on this article from James Parks, some no-name. I'm kidding. We're all no-names. We are. Shout out to James Parks. So coming in at number 10, it is Kentucky. They have the 10th hardest schedule. We know they now do have Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron. You know what? That's Kentucky keeps doing this where they face literally no one in the non-conference. The same thing happened last year. So they'll be 3-0. They'll be 4-0. Then they get Florida at home. That's winnable. At Georgia, that's rough. Missouri, all right, that's winnable. Tennessee at home is tough. At Mississippi State is tough. Alabama is miserable. At South Carolina, at Louisville. All in all, I don't think that schedule is too horrible. But in terms of if we're going by winning percentage, which is what the article was going by, Kentucky comes in at number 10. Moving down to number 9, the 9th hardest schedule, it is Kansas State. And Kansas State is a team a lot of us expect to take a bit of a step back without Deuce Vaughn, in a much tougher Big 12 conference. Southeast Missouri, they get them week 1. That's an easy win. Troy, you would figure they'll be 2-0. At Missouri, that could be a tough game. UCF at home, that's tough. They get an early season bye. Then they're at Oklahoma State, at Texas Tech. They're probably splitting those two games. Maybe they can win both of them. Kansas State, they could win both those games, but it's not going to be easy. TCU at home, that's winnable. Houston at home, that's winnable. At Texas is rough. Baylor should be pretty good next year. At Kansas, and then Iowa State. The problem is the Big 12 is just so much more deeper now. I mean, they added, in their expansion, they added 4 quality teams. I mean, Houston, you can say what you want about Houston. We'll see what they return. I know they lose Nathaniel Dell, and I think they lose their starting quarterback as well. But that is the 9th hardest schedule. Moving down to number 8, it is Ohio State, who begins at Indiana. All right, you're working in Kyle McCord. That's an easy win. Youngstown State, very rare the Buckeyes facing an FCS team. That's got 76-0 written all over it. Western Kentucky comes to town. Western Kentucky, they've always got a nice offense. They do. And then the big game at Notre Dame. And Ohio State with a very early season bye before October hits. Maryland at home is a free win, although Tua Tagovailoa's brother is returning to Maryland, I believe. At Purdue, we know it's a house of horrors for Ohio State, but that's a game you got to win with Aiden O'Connell gone. But they do have Hudson Card. Penn State at home. Penn State's loaded. At Wisconsin, that's a really rough 2-game stretch. At Rutgers is free. Michigan State at home is free. Minnesota at home is free. That's an easy stretch. And then they finish it against Michigan on the road, of course. So for Ohio State, it just comes down to at Notre Dame, Penn State, at Wisconsin, at Michigan. That's a brutal 4 games right there. Moving on down to number 7, it is Iowa State. So they begin. How about Iowa State's schedule? Iowa State week 1, Northern Iowa. Iowa State week 2, Iowa. It's like the battle for Iowa. It is the imperial battle for the state. And we'll see who ends up winning. Week 3 at Ohio. Wait a minute. What? How does Iowa State play at Ohio? In Athens. Oh, that's where Joe Burrow grew up, I think. That's crazy. I actually like that. And then they get Oklahoma State at home. I love Oklahoma. I believe Oklahoma returns Dylan Gabriel. So, yeah, Oklahoma's going to be really good, and they face them on the road. TCU at home, Cincinnati on the road, Baylor on the road, BYU on the road. Oh, my God. Matt Campbell. No, not like this. This is probably the hardest schedule I've seen all year. at Cincinnati, at Oklahoma, at Baylor, at BYU, versus Texas, at Kansas State. That is not fun at all. And I think it says they're number 7, but honestly, they should probably be even higher. Moving down to number 6, it is Florida. They begin, the back end of that home and home with Utah. So they will be on the road at Utah. They won the front end of the home and home. I would expect Utah gets some revenge there, but we'll see. That game could be on Thursday, so we're awaiting word to see when that Florida-Utah game will be. McNeese Cowboys, week 2, that's a free win. Tennessee, week 3, that's tough. Charlotte's a free win. At Kentucky's tough. Vanderbilt's free. At South Carolina. Wow, it's like they have an easy game, then a hard game. Easy game, hard game, easy game, hard game. Bye week. Georgia, neutral site. That's rough. Arkansas at home. KJ Jefferson returning. That's rough. At LSU. That's rough. Jane Daniels returning. At Missouri. That's a winnable game. Florida State. That's rough. Oh my goodness. I think maybe Florida has the hardest schedule next year. That is not fun. FSU's possibly top 10. LSU is getting top 10 hype. Georgia's top 3 minimum. Tennessee's top 10 hype. Kentucky's got Devin Leary. Utah's top 15. Oh no. South Carolina might even be top 25. So they come in at number 6, but honestly, they should probably be even higher than that. And then apparently it's like a tie for number 6 with also Houston, who is tied with Florida for the number 6 hardest schedule based on winning percentage, opponent's winning percentage. UTSA, I want no part of the Roadrunners next year with the returning quarterback for his 9th year. At Rice, week 2. So they go on the road at Rice. Or is that oh no, that is, wow. So that's an interesting game. TCU, week 3. Sam Houston, week 4. At Texas Tech. They get their bye week. West Virginia, Texas at home, at Kansas State, at Baylor, Cincy at home. Yeah, that's a rough schedule. UCF to end the season. I'll tell you, the Big 12 is just a tough conference. There's a lot of good teams in it now. There really is a lot of good teams. So they're in a tie for the 6th hardest schedule. Moving to the top 5, it is Missouri at number 5. They begin the season versus South Dakota and then Middle Tennessee. So they've got a free 2-0 start. Kansas State at home, that's winnable. Memphis, I think that's a neutral site game. What the hell is the Dome? I don't know where that game's being played, but Memphis at Vanderbilt, you got to win that. LSU at home, that's tough. At Kentucky, that's tough. South Carolina at home. Georgia, Tennessee, Florida at Arkansas. That's a brutal end. So they've got an easy beginning and a really bad ending. Coming in at number 4 on the toughest schedules, it is Ole Miss. They begin with Mercer and then at Tulane. So, of course, Tulane, had a crazy season last year. They ended up beating USC, but I believe they lose a ton. So, even though that's kind of a weird game, it's on the road at Tulane, it should be winnable for Ole Miss, who returns Jackson Dart. They return some players. Georgia Tech at home, that's easy. At Alabama, that's rough. LSU, that's rough. Arkansas, it's winnable at home. At Auburn is winnable. Vanderbilt's a win. A&M, who knows what A&M's going to be. At Georgia, that's rough. UL Monroe. At Mississippi State. I mean, I think it's a hard schedule, but I think we've seen a few ones that have been harder than that. Moving to number 3 on the toughest schedules, West Virginia. At Penn State, that is brutal. So they open the season on the road. Possibly, we'll see if that's the whiteout game. I'm guessing Penn State's going to try and get their whiteout game for Michigan. But either way, at Penn State, a free win against Duquesne. Pittsburgh at home. I mean, Pittsburgh's decent, so that's a tough non-conference. 2 teams that are good. Texas Tech at home. At TCU. I think TCU is going to take a major step back, but that's not going on the road there is not easy. They get a bye week at Houston. Oklahoma State, at UCF, BYU, at Oklahoma, Cincinnati, at Baylor. That is a brutal ending for West Virginia. Coming in at number 2 on the toughest schedules, Michigan State. They begin with Central Michigan. It's real sad that that's not a Friday night game. Normally, Michigan State always faces a MAC team on Friday night to begin the seasons, and it's like a tradition. They're not doing it. I wonder what happened. Richmond, week 2, so they'll be 2-0. Washington week 3 is brutal. Washington's going to be really good next year. They're returning a ton. Maryland week 4, that's a toss-up. At Iowa week 5, Iowa should be better. That's not an easy game on the road at all. They get a bye week. At Rutgers is winnable. Michigan at home, that's the rivalry. At Minnesota. Minnesota's normally pretty good. PJ Fleck. Nebraska at home, at Ohio State, at Indiana, Penn State. So, I mean, it's a typical Big Ten East schedule. It's just tough when you've got Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, possibly 3 of the top 6 teams in college football. And then the toughest schedule next year, according to win percentage, is South Carolina. They will begin in a neutral site game against North Carolina. North Carolina is a good team. They've got Drake May returning. We, of course, know they fizzled out last year, but still, Drake May's a good quarterback. Spencer Rattler, Drake May, that's a fun week 1 game. Furman's a free win. At Georgia's a loss. Mississippi State's tough. At Tennessee's brutal. Off week. Florida at home, that's winnable. At Missouri's winnable. At A&M, I mean, we'll see. Randomly, they've got Jacksonville State. Vanderbilt's a free win. Kentucky, we'll see. And then Clemson, the rivalry game to finish the season. So, guys, those are the top 10 toughest college football schedules in 2023 according to overall opponent winning percentage. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.